Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live episode of the Inside Voice podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Roberts. Inside Voice is part of Voice. You can learn more about Voice at voicesummit.ai. My special guest today is one of many we have on today. We have Ian Utile, the CEO of ATTN.LIVE. So welcome, Ian. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm very honored to be here on the Inside Voice podcast.
And I also have with me someone many of you know very well, but for those who do not, Pete Erickson. He is the owner and founder of Modev and Voice, again, what this podcast is a part of. And he is here to share kind of all the new events that we have coming up and to say hello. So welcome, Pete. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Carrie. Thanks for having me. Ian, good to see you. It's always good
too.
to see community members. And just a shout out to everybody out there. Hope you're doing well, staying safe, and, finding your way through this unprecedented time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Last time Pete and I saw each other was in DC, went to Crystal City together, and we toured the Renaissance and the Crystal City Hyatt. We toured all 3 floors, and Pete was casting the vision for me about the Voice Summit in October.
Little did we know.
I was getting excited. I'm telling the world about it, right? We're riding the one wheel through and capturing video and going to show people what we're going to do in these 2 hotels.
That's right.
And obviously a lot has changed, Pete, since we saw
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I think a little bit's changed, right?
That's right.
So Carrie, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of give a quick overview, kind of what's happening here at Modev and the Voice Summit conferences. Well, as we all know, coronavirus, I think, has taken everybody by complete surprise with regards to the amount of disruption it's really caused in all of our lives, personally and professionally. The events business is no different, right? We've watched most conferences this year get canceled, created into virtual conferences, or just canceled outright. And they'll come back at it in 2021. We were a little bit fortunate that we had already started planning a live stream conference called Voice Global. We started the plans last August. The idea with Voice Global was we knew that, we had attracted close to 5,000 people from 30 countries to Voice Summit last year. And knowing that there were people coming from around the world, we wanted to provide an opportunity to reach those attendees, or even more attendees that could be out there around the world, to join the Voice community and give them a platform. And also be a way to promote our flagship event in the fall, which is Voice Summit. So that was the spirit by which we started Voice Global. But little did we know that the pandemic would hit, and now we put a whole bunch of new focus on Voice Global, just as a real must-have now for the industry to come together. If you look at the last major events happened in January with Voice at CES and Project Voice. There's been some other smaller events, but really, we haven't been able to come together as a community. So we see Voice Global as a way to bring everybody together again. And that conference, you can go find out information on it at voiceglobal.ai. It's 6 channels, 24 hours, kicks off in London, and goes around the world. And, we're really excited about that. It's a big undertaking, but we like doing hard things. And that's all in process right now. So we look forward to that. So go check that out. It's free to attend. And we hope everybody will come and experience it, to see what a virtual summit, virtual conference can be like. And then for our fall event, Voice Summit, we are going to take that virtual. It's already noted on the website, but we're in the process of communicating with everybody, all the constituents. And we've been working behind the scenes for a couple months. We had to work with our hotels and all of our vendors. And, we want to reconvene things in 2021. And I'm really hoping we can. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee at this point, just because there's so many unknowns right now. But we will be getting a communication out. You'll see a video dropping from me this afternoon about that event. But this will preclude that a little bit. But I'm happy to get the message out there that Voice Summit 2020 will be a virtual event, and really it's all about keeping people safe. And our job is to not only keep you safe, but keep you connected. So we're going to do that in an exponential way this fall, and planning is well underway for that. So we're excited about it, and we appreciate everybody's patience and understanding as we do our best to be a platform for the community. One other thing, Carrie, I want to bring up real quick is, given that we were supposed to go to Mobile World Congress and that canceled, and South by Southwest canceled, and so we had to think quick on our feet. And fortunately, with one of our partners at the Google Assistant Global Product Partners team, we came up with a talk show idea called Voice Talks. It launched last month. And that's been a great success. We had 13,000 subscribers to our first episode. We'll probably approach close to 25,000 subscribers for next week's episode on May 26th. And that's really about putting a spotlight on the community and what's happening out there, and how are people utilizing voice and building products, and just the opportunities that are abound in this industry. Right now, I would say the voice tech industry is being called on to innovate like never before. This is our moment. It's time to take that opportunity. Voice Talks is one way that we figured out, if we can't reach people at major conferences like we planned on, we can reach them through our platform. And Voice Talks has been a great success. And I'm hats off to the Google Assistant product partners team for joining us on that journey. And Sophia Altun has been a fabulous host. And this next episode next week features all women in tech, all women in voice, doing really, really breakthrough things at the edge of the industry. So those are the things that we're up to. And, like I said, as a community builder, we just see our role as more important than ever of keeping people connected through this crisis, being a platform for growth, for job opportunities. We know that people's lives are really depending on the community builders out there. We take it very seriously, and that's what we're focused on. So thanks for having me on here at the beginning of this conversation. And Ian, excited to have you as a media partner. ATTN.LIVE is a media partner for Voice Global. Thank you so much for that. I look forward to this conversation because I think what you're doing is outstanding. And I won't steal your thunder, but I think the work that you're doing and the barriers that you're breaking down related to audio content and streaming is really, really cool. And I hope it goes very, very well. So I'll go ahead and sign off. Carrie, thanks again for having me here at the beginning of the show. You two have a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Pete, for joining us and for continuing to bring the community together in such innovative ways. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to keep it going.
See you soon.
See ya. Bye.
All right, Ian, first, before we start, those that are watching, Stephen Fox is here. He says, thank you. Brenton Power, so excited to hear. I invited hundreds on my business social media. We thank you and appreciate it. Emery says hello, and Ludwig, good to see you, Ian, sending blessings your way. So I want to thank all of the people that are here, and I want to give kudos to Ian for helping to kind of put this together, to bring people together, to really do the work, to send the information out. So thank you, Ian, among many things that you do. And we're first starting off about live podcasting. And, for those that don't know, you also had a company where it was the #1 fastest growing private company in San Jose, California, a few years back. And then you decide to create ATTN.LIVE, which is this kind of live podcasting platform. But I'm curious, what made you interested in kind of this live thing? Because I got excited about, voice because of podcasting. And a lot of times people were like, well, they don't really correlate. And here you are kind of bringing these two together. So I'm curious where this concept for you came from.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, I look forward to answering that. For those that are tuned in, thank you for your attention. Your time is super valuable. And to tune into a live event like this is asking a lot. If video is too demanding for you, you can always listen to this broadcast as well. Carrie's live streaming this to Twitter and Facebook and YouTube, I believe LinkedIn, and then we're live streaming the audio to YouTube and the Lexi devices. You asked about how did I get into live podcasting? I've had other previous tech companies. The creation of ATTN.LIVE is for the sole purpose of me as a human and me as a businessman having the tool that I need. The reality is that live podcasting does not exist right now. So this is a brand new category that me and my partners and our extended team have been working on creating. This is why it's taken so long. I started this journey November 2017. And so why? Well, pre-production and post-production are incredibly time consuming and very difficult for the actual content creator, right? So if I'm talent, right? If I'm a content creator, if that's the role I have in media, but then I also have to do all the pre-production planning strategy and then the post-production editing and then distribution, it's just a lot on just a simple guy, right? It's a lot. And so I have to have big media teams with lots of equipment to do this. And it is expensive, time consuming with lots of hurdles that are faced, which are totally reasonable, but difficult for a bootstrapped entrepreneur that's trying to move quickly. And so I needed something that eliminated pre-production and post-production so that I could easily communicate. As I started to think about these things, I realized how video was going to be a problem moving forward. You see, video, it takes up a lot of space. This may sound crazy, but I've actually recorded over 10 terabytes of video this last year. In the last 12 months, I've recorded over 10 terabytes of video. I got the proof on Google Photos. And what do I do with that content? I basically just capture content. I don't have time for post-production. So it usually just kind of sits on a hard drive. So we started to think about what is it that a content creator needs that allows a content creator to produce content at scale without all the pre and post-production issues. And we realized, gosh, audio is easy. You don't have to worry about how you look. You don't have to use up all the bandwidth to send it up to the cloud. You don't have to store all the content. Like, it just eliminates a lot of headaches. And then how about the consumer, which is the most important person, right? The content creator is just yapping lips and just talking in the air if there's nobody that's going to consume that content. So every content creator, every organization should be completely focused on the person that's actually going to be listening or watching. And so that is why audio was a big thing for us. It's just easy for people to listen to content. It's not demanding a lot. They don't have to look at a screen. They don't have to use up the bandwidth. Everybody's at home, shelter in place. So internet is slower than before. And so we felt like, gosh, a simple solution for broadcasting content by audio. And then, of course, the big thing for us was, can it go everywhere, right? Can I just use my one cell phone? So here's Attention Live. This is the product, right? I've been live on Attention Live for 12 minutes. Okay, so pretty simple. I have a title and description. It automatically changes the date so that way it's already set for me. This says NFT. I may or may not talk about that today, but NFTs is like a house has a deed and a car has a pink slip. Attention Live creates a token to prove that you own your own content. So we think that's really important moving forward. I'm live streaming to Alexa. I might have just turned off YouTube with my finger. Whoops. And then we have all these other platforms, voice devices and social media devices. I don't know, I turned YouTube back on. Let's see if that worked. For all those out there on YouTube, if you were listening to me and I disappeared, fat fingers. So how does this actually work? Let me just give a quick demonstration of that. Alexa, open Attention Live.
Welcome to Attention Live. Tell me the name of the channel you'd like to stream.
Utile. Moving forward. I'm live streaming to Alexa. I might have just turned off YouTube with my finger. Whoops. Alexa, stop. That's nice. I got to live that embarrassment twice. Yay. So I'm actually not really embarrassed very often. I don't really care what any of you think, although I'm very grateful for your attention. This is my dad, Gary Utile. He's a legendary surfer and he's my hero. Our product works on every single type of hardware and software. This is a Windows Surface, this is an Apple iPad, and this is a Samsung Tab, I believe. So it doesn't matter if a content creator is an Android user, an iOS user, or a Windows user. It doesn't matter if they prefer a desktop computer, a tablet, or a cell phone. They have the ability to use any device they have. Even that old junk drawer iPad, iPhone, the iPhone 5, work just fine. You can grab that, and now you have the ability to go live from one place everywhere. Doesn't demand a lot of you as a creator, certainly doesn't demand a lot of people as a consumer. So that is what we've created right now. That works, and I'm very thankful for the team that's helped me create this, especially my business partner, our CTO, Landry Woolworth. He's been with me for almost 15 years. He's helped me launch probably a dozen companies in the last 15 years. And then I have another half a dozen people that are part of our team. And altogether, we've worked together 80 years in total. Our team, that's the number of years that these folks worked with me, building companies. And so, I have a big mouth and they have big brains, and we're creating something special.
Yeah. And, when we talked about this before, because I've been doing podcasting for a while, I do 3 shows. And I think you're right. I think there's value as a creator in that it's another place that people can listen to and ask about, but also from another side, you know, you and I were kind of talking, as we call you a futurist, or you call yourself a futurist, is this idea of like, I can ask, you know, my device, eventually my car, my phone, whatever, does so-and-so have a live podcast right now? Or is anyone talking? Like whatever you want, eventually I think is the whole goal, right? If there's a celebrity speaking, a podcaster you like, is there something on about this? I think that's something that I find really exciting about that as well.
Yeah. I mean, for us, if you want to listen to Attention Live, you can listen to my channel, Ian Utility, 24 hours a day, right? So we basically have a radio station we're creating for our users. So all of my live podcasts are stacked together. I can eliminate podcasts that I don't like, right? I said something stupid, I said something wrong, the internet wasn't, whatever the reason, just delete or edit. And then you kind of cultivate this really nice 24/7 cycle of information. This allows people to tune in to somebody that they're interested in hearing, and they can just hear their last live podcast and then their next one, where it picks up where they left off. And then I can interrupt. Like, obviously, I just did the demo, and you, Carrie, were able to hear what I just said 30 seconds before. So that's considered real time in live streaming, right? Like if we go live through Zoom on YouTube or Facebook, like we did yesterday, people in other areas, they're going to see that with a 25 or 35-second delay. So that's pretty normal. It's still kind of considered live in real time, right? Yeah. And so we're really excited about what we've built. We think it's important. You know, for the last 2 years, I've been talking about, we're going to build this product. And it's going to go live on every voice device and every social media site. It's going to tokenize your content, and it's going to automate the process for you to make money. And I mean, I'm building the story, right? I'm telling the story. But then as soon as our product worked last fall, so it's actually worked, you know, for 9 months. Okay, let's rein it in and figure out what we really have our hands on. We started using it, right? We used it at CES, didn't tell anybody. No big PR, no big press release. I didn't tell the media. We used it at the Project Voice, right? I didn't say anything to anybody except for just in passing, right? Very mellow, you know, and it's one step at a time. See, I have an advantage that I've been building tech companies in the Silicon Valley for over 20 years. And so I have experienced the consequence of being, of talking about a house of cards as though it's real. In the past, I've experienced the consequence of, you know, people talk about catfishing, you know, when somebody presents something that's not really what it is. And I've experienced the consequence of when CEOs start catfishing their product and start saying it is something. So as soon as we really knew what we had our hands on, we reined all of our communications in, and it was very clear. Like today, we've developed and created a category called live podcasting. And with our software, from any device, any OS, you can go live on YouTube, which represents the social media sites, and Lexi, which represents the voice devices. Soon we will add all the other, you know, you saw that on my screen, the other ones. We're also going to send the archive to Spotify and iTunes, much like Anchor does. And, you know, it's really a special product. And so now it's important that I can communicate the value of what we have right now separately than when I get into my futurist mode and I start vision casting about what we're going to do or what can be created, because we have something very real and very tangible right this moment.
I want to share some comments. Emery says, kudos to Landrew. We have Mark saying, terrific demonstration, simply amazing. Nice demo from Eli. And then also, let's see, we got a lot of comments, which is really nice. Such an easy platform for, we appreciate all your comments. We're gonna do Q&A a little bit later. Such an easy platform for,
write your question, Carrie and I'll see it.
Yeah, easy platform for content creation, and you can set up affiliates quick. You want to share it, which is great. Someone had, you know, it uses Zoom, which is fabulous. Yeah, so I think it's for people that are in podcasting. I will say, you know, now everybody's podcasting, and this is another way to kind of stand out and do something a little different, kind of combine two things as well. And I want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about, you know, the future of voice. Again, you talk about yourself being a futurist. What do you kind of see besides just this live podcasting section about the future of voice as a whole?
Yeah, so let me just make a very clear distinction. We're at the 20-minute time. Right? It's 1:20 Eastern, 10:20 Pacific. I'm no longer going to be speaking about the product that is created and built at this moment. That's what I talked about the last 15 minutes. I'm now talking about the future. I want to be very clear with everybody that when I start sharing the future of voice, that people are not thinking that this is what Attention.LIVE is built today. It's either what we intend, desire, and have ambition to build, or that we're looking at our peers in the tech industry and saying this is what they're going to be building. The future of voice is best summed up in the ability to understand and be understood like never before. Okay, so the very first way that we ever communicated as humans is by voice. We heard our mother and our father when we were in the womb. When we came out, we heard our mother's voice. We start hearing thoughts in our head eventually. Which is kind of like a voice, and then eventually we start speaking. And so it's always been easiest to be understood when you use your mouth to communicate. It's why parents tell their kids that start hitting each other, use your words, not your hands, right? We're supposed to use our words. We're supposed to communicate with this amazing, miraculous ability that we have. Understanding also is best by voice. The reality is watching videos are slow, and reading text, not only can it be slow unless you're a speed reader, but in addition to being slow, you also don't actually know the tone of voice. You don't know if they're mad, if they're happy. There's a lot of mixed things. So voice is the key. And here's my belief about the future of voice. I will speak to a voice device. Now, today we have Siri and Bixby, Cortana Assistant, and Lexi, and SoundHound, and there's others, right? Your car, right? So you have these things. I'll speak in the future, and it will literally understand me better than any human understands me. It will understand me better than my parents or my children, and I will understand the voice devices eventually better than any human. It doesn't mean it's going to be like the movie Her, where you fall in love with your machine. It's not like that. And the reason why we know that is that, Carrie, you and I are not in love with our machines.
It is, we've talked about this before. It is this kind of creepy thought, especially when I saw that movie many years ago. Yeah, but there's so much value in having your assistants know what you need when you ask for it.
There's no context for that. Let me be really clear with everybody when I talk about the future. There's a lot of amazing media out right now that is telling you the wrong story. And if you believe that story that they're telling you, you are going to be part of the problem. And this is my biggest concern as we move forward, is that there are amazing artists, directors and producers. There's amazing artists, actors, actresses, and CGI people that are creating this story. Okay. They just released the new show Upload on Amazon Prime. And before that, it was Electric Dreams on Prime. And then there's Black Mirror and Altered Carbon, right? Of course, Blade Runner and Terminator and Alita and all these dystopic movies. And my question, media people, all you artists out there, where are Jetsons type movies at? Like, whatever happened to positivity, optimism? Like, in fact, how about just wisdom? Like, just look at history. How does technology usually work out for humans over the course of the last 10,000 years? How'd the tire turn out? How'd planes turn out? How about cars? How about glasses? How about clothes? How about the internet? Smartphones? I mean, how have things turned out for humanity? It sure seems to me like even the most devastating possible invention, somehow, some way, humans were graced, and it turns out for our good. Yet when it comes to artificial intelligence, voice technology, these types of very future tech things that is maybe even being developed faster than we have control, and then fears arise, and then Skynet, and then Upload, right? Now, I enjoy these shows. I thoroughly enjoy dystopic media because it's escapism and entertaining, but I find it very concerning because it's not casting a vision of the future where in 10 or 25 years, you walk around and you have an idea. Like, this is the future, Carrie. You have an idea. Carrie's great idea. And then you go, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Instead of taking 9 months to work on your branding and to build a website and to launch an event, or in my case, 2.5 years for Attention.LIVE, you just say, hey, voice device, which understands your tone of voice perfectly. It knows if you're sad, if you're angry, if you're anxious, if you're in a hurry. In fact, it knows your schedule. It knows the people you just finished talking to. It knows the people that you're going to talk to. It has full, complete context, as long as you give it that, right? You're going to have to give up privacy for speed, or give up some sense of, there's an exchange. But you say, hey, I have an idea. You say, voice device, Carrie's great idea. I want you to take this photo from my phone. I want you to use that video I saw on YouTube 3 days ago. First paragraph should say, this is Carrie's great idea. I'm really pumped about this. You have to engage with me on this great idea. Go and buy me carriesgreatidea.com. Not available. .co is fine. Get all the social media sites, the Twitter, the YouTube. Build all those things out, same banner, same design, spin up an Eventbrite page. And then can you invite everybody I've text messaged in the last 18 months that lives within 20 miles of me, invite them to come over. Let's assume we don't have the same social distancing policies 15 years from now, right? When this is at this level, and then you say, done. Literally, as fast as you could speak, it understood and did the work. And the sites are built, the social media sites are built, the Eventbrite message went out to all the people within 50 miles of you that you text in the last 18 months, and your event is sold out. You had an idea, and instead of a 9-month, $50,000 process, you went from an idea, and 2 minutes and 28 seconds later, your event's sold out. Like, that's the future of voice for marketers.
Yeah, which is, it saves time, it's efficient. And I think, like you said, a lot of times creators, entrepreneurs, business people, you're kind of walking and you have these ideas pop into your head, or you have things and you're like, you just want to talk it out loud. And I think, like you said, there's value in voice being able to pick that up and then utilize all the other information it has as well. For people that, you're talking about, some people say doom and gloom, but there's so much positivity here. Where is the positivity from a job standpoint? Because a lot of people feel like, oh my gosh, well, if that's what those things are things I do for a living, what will happen? That's a question people ask all the time. Do you think that there's kind of these new jobs being created? And if so, what does that look like?
Well, nobody really knows, especially in the short term. It's way easier to talk about the jobs 5 and 20 years from now than it is to talk about the jobs 6 and 18 months from now. I can say I believe that the future, that there's 3 experiences that we're going to have in our life to basically, that we engage. We're going to either be learning, we're going to be teaching, or we're going to be promoting. And so probably the number one job moving forward in the world is going to be a job of a promoter. It doesn't mean you're a salesperson. It doesn't mean there's a billion different ways to promote, but promoting something will provide value to an organization that wants to influence people. And so if you can get people's attention and influence them on behalf of an organization or a person, you can be compensated for that. The other thing you'd be compensated for in the future is teaching. All right, so let's talk about the voice device. Let's talk about ATTN.LIVE in 5 years. Okay, so 5-10 years, and I'm talking about jobs right now. This is relatable to what you said. 5 or 10 years. Let's assume that Elon Musk has put enough satellites in the world, everybody's connected. Let's assume Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg or even Justice Earl from SnapRing can get enough rings on every single person's finger that their ring can connect them to the satellite, and it has a microphone and speaker in it. Okay, now you have Musk providing connectivity, and you have another entrepreneur providing hardware and software. Now let's say ATTN.LIVE's on there, which would be my intention and my goal and desire. Now somebody that cannot read, cannot write, doesn't speak or understand English or any major language. In fact, they might even be blind. So they couldn't read anyways, right? But they have this ring, and this ring opens their world. And so what will they start? They'll start as a learner, right? And so in their own language, I want to know how to use my ring. And then there it is. And even though it was taught in English or German or Spanish or Portuguese, they will hear it in their native tongue. Why? Because voice technology is just the human interface or the human operating system to be able to communicate with machine learning, which we call artificial intelligence, which doesn't really exist yet, maybe ever. And so this machines will be able to translate messages or teaching from developed countries into the same exact content, but in the native tongue of the developing world. Well, once they start as learners, then they can actually learn something through this hardware and this connectivity. And next thing you know, now they have something of value to provide, right? So now all of a sudden you just potentially put the world to work as teachers or as promoters, right? So if the world is going to be learners, teachers, and promoters, then people in developing worlds will probably have to start off as learners, learn some skill. Maybe the skill they learn is how to handle operating calls, right? Customer service. Pretty simple. And so they start by learning. They have their little ring. They talk to the snap ring, and, through the satellite, through ATTN.LIVE software, and they say, I want to make money now. So, okay, well, we have all these customer service calls. They come through, they listen to them, they respond. That has value. I don't know, maybe 3 cents each call, maybe $3 each call. Who knows what micropayments are going to be like in the future? But that's a very real thing. And that's why our ambition is to actually have half the world on our platform. You see, in 10 years, I'd love to have 4 billion people using the ATTN.LIVE software. And the reason is that I think our vision is as good as anybody's for helping the developing world. And so when you talk about the future jobs, I think in the developing world, it's a lot more having to do with teaching and promoting. And that's the developed world. And in the developing world, it's going to have a lot more to do with learning and promoting, right? But the one thing that will be shared in common amongst the wealthy areas, right, where you and I get to live, we're so fortunate for that, and the most devastated areas, the one thing that's in common is that people can make money by promoting. It'll always be the case. There's people that will pay money to influence others. And if you can get people's attention and influence them, you will have a way to make a living. And then the difference is that developed worlds will probably be more around teaching, and the developing world will be more around learning. And that'll be a cycle. And of course, there'll be ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and I like that you broke that down: learning, teaching, promoting. And it's so funny when we talk about voice. That's not anything different than when anything else comes new. People had to do that with social media, with other things that came about. They had to learn it, they had to teach it, and they had to promote it. And so I love that you're kind of saying like, hey, this is a similar pattern. It's just in a different context.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I think, as far as like immediately what's going to happen with jobs, I think people are going to have to figure out ways of creating a new normal. And I don't think that now I love the monologues of like what we're doing right now. Like you and I are creating a video monologue and an audio monologue, right? Now there's some chat, so it's kind of dialogue-ish, and we're going to bring on Collin and Brian, so change a little bit. But the reality is it's not sustainable to be sitting and doing Zoom calls 10 or 50 hours a week. Mm-hmm. It's just not. So there has to be a different new normal. And this is not a sustainable model, not from a creator or consumer standpoint. So you have to think through like, what does work for you? Because, obviously doing things online is going to be a key, and doing things digitally is going to be a key. But how do you do things to where it's a little bit different? Like, try to find a way to create a new normal, and then try to think like, what value do you have to bring? Because all of us have greatness that we're capable of. All of us are brilliant. All of us. I mean, I joked around with a friend the other day. I'm like, the reason why it's so hard to be a human is because we have the mind of a god and the body of a beast, and that's this tension that we all are constantly in. We have these very primal existence of bodies, but we have this mind that's kind of unexplainable, and mystical, and we don't fully understand the spirit and the soul and all these different things. But there's clearly something going on with people. And so in that, everybody has to realize, like, you might be have struggles and hardship like all people do, but you also have greatness, which is why I say, the mind of a god, right? Like that thought that you may think like God, right? Even though you may act like an animal. And because of that, now things are changing. So what used to be the patterns are no longer the patterns. And this is a great opportunity. It lets you have a fresh start. There's no better way to stop doing things you shouldn't have been doing in the first place than a massive life change.
That is true. And I think, we're about to bring on 2 other people in a moment. When we're talking about voice, it's about voice first, as Brian coined, and we'll come on in a moment. Not about voice only. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, I have to only do voice. But like you said, it's we don't want to be doing Zoom calls all day. We don't want to be doing video calls all day. Our eyes get really strained. But I also don't want to listen to audio all day, right? So it's having those opportunities to have a mix of both, of what you need when, and also so it's a variety of things. It's not just one thing all the time. So I like that you're kind of talking about that. And we're going to switch gears for a moment. We have two other guests that we're bringing on. If you have questions, please put them in the comment box and we'll answer as many as we can. So I want to add in here, we have Brian Roemmele. He is a voice first expert and investor. Welcome, Brian. Excited to have you here. Let's see if you can hear. He is in Wyoming.
Really a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate it. I love the pre-talk. This is brilliant.
Yes, and Brian is in Wyoming, so he is here with us just in an audio sense. But we are excited to have him here. And we also have Collin Borns. He is the VC at Voice Punch. Welcome, Collin. Thank you for being here as well.
Yeah, thanks, Carrie and Ian, for having me on.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to start off with my question. Again, if you guys have questions, ladies and gentlemen, however you identify, you can put it in the comments. One of the questions I get asked all the time is, I am a startup, let's say in voice, since that's our specialty. What are investors looking for? What should I be doing? What do I need? I'm just not sure. So all three of you have actually invested before. I'd love for you to talk about what is it that you're looking for when it comes to some sort of investment. Collin, I can start with you.
Yeah, I think that, we're definitely talking about like this whole new normal. I think that we are going from an era of being able to go on, maybe it's a hunch or you really like a team, you really like an idea. And now we're going into this sort of time where you really need to actually be building a real business. I know that sounds kind of straightforward, but the sort of mantra in venture isn't always build something that makes money today. And I think that we're going into, at least for the next few years, just a time where you really are going to have good unit economics, a good business plan to actually make revenue and not just get users, I guess, up front and then worry about revenue down the road.
Yeah. And Brian, what are some of your thoughts on this? Oh, can you hear us?
Go ahead.
All right, Ian, Brian. Okay, go ahead. That's all right. Go ahead, Brian. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Brian.
I was just sending my son to school. Literally video school. So we're living it in real time. So what was the question? I had to run out of here.
Yes, go ahead, Carrie.
Yeah, so we were just kind of talking, I was starting off with this question that I get asked all the time. When you have people that are a startup, their number one question is, how do I get the attention of an investor? What are things that investors are looking for?
It's really always a moving target when it comes to new technology, right? So the proof case was the hardest part of this. And the proof case was, does somebody want to talk to a device that's listening to them and interacting with them on a anthropomorphic type of level? The prior use case was, dialing an 800 number and being greeted by a touch tone system, and nobody really appreciated that. And it wasn't really until Siri and Alexa that we started seeing what the beginning of this power could be, but it's extremely early days. So the problem with being able to present the future is that you have to have the minimum viable product. And the minimum viable product has to be something that serves a sector greatly, to a level that if that product was missing from that person's life after they've adopted it, they would want it to come back, right? So that's kind of what I look for. That's what I try to build, right? Because I also build this stuff. And you want to make it so that it becomes integrated and weaved into the fabric of that person's life. And very few products really get to do that. And in a sense, the word disruption is always brought about, right? The true Clayton Christensen disruption actually winds up at the end of the day equating into becoming part of that person's tapestry of life. So where does voice come? Well, we're now in a Q&A type of voice environment. You ask a question, you get an answer. That's not a conversation. In fact, it actually is irritating. And so we've reached what I call the cold winter of voice. And that's it. Where are the boundaries? Okay, I kind of can get it to do this. It's a Q&A, but it's not very satisfying. Conversation is what humans are built upon, as Ian brilliantly presented. We're storytellers and we're story listeners. That's all humans do, period. Hard stop. If you can find anything else that humans do beyond building a story, whether they're building with their hands, their words, their products, it's a story. And you either understand that story now or you understand it later, or maybe you never understand it, but that's basically it. So when I'm looking at somebody inventing in their garage or pounding away in their bedroom on a keyboard and coming up with some ideas, I'm looking at what are they trying to achieve for themselves first. So I'm not even looking at the product. I'm looking at the person. Anybody who claims that they have some kind of mathematical model because they left a university MBA class is telling you a lie, because it never existed and never will exist. The only thing that exists is the person and then the people behind the product. All products initially come from the invention of one person's mind, and that will never change. But it comes with a lot of help. We stand on shoulders of an amazing amount of people. So you look at those people and you say, okay, whose shoulders are you standing on? And if they can tell you, then you know you have somebody legitimate. If they don't have the ability to explain it, then they probably don't have the ability to translate what that product is going to do in the real world. So it starts with people. Why do you need to build this? Why does it need to be in this world right now? Now, some people think this is all about greatness. Every product has to be super great. That's another line of BS. A product doesn't have to be super great. A product just has to do what it was made to do. And it has to do it good enough for the person to want to buy it. Not everybody is driving Mercedes-Benz perfectly engineered cars. I see a lot of Fords. I see a lot of Chevys. I see a lot of old Pintos even out here where I am right now. So, you know, this idea that came in the tech world of this absolute perfection of everything, fortunately creates monsters sometimes. It also creates what everybody calls feature bloat, right? You have the bloated features within a product. This is typical of us engineers and technologists. We tend to want to throw everything we can into the kitchen sink, hope that something sticks to the wall because we don't quite get it. We don't quite feel what that product is. And that's what I teach people to do. I teach people to close their eyes and feel what this product should be doing. And literally it is a feel. And a lot of people think this is new agey. A lot of VCs, when they first, they want me to help them with some of their clients. Like, what is this guy doing? Is he some kind of guru? Is he going to have us walk on the beach? No, this is how people buy things. We're emotional creatures. Right. Everything is a neuropeptide release. So I start with the founder. What neuropeptides is that founder putting out? What is he or she trying to say to the world? Then what is the product trying to say to the world? Then what is the team that's building that product trying to say to the world? And then you start getting, wow, this has got something. And that's what voice did to me when I first found it, right? I found it really in the 70s and the 80s. I said, this is the last interface. This is the last interface for humans. Everything else has just been a sidetrack. Pounding on keyboards is a cognitive and mechanical load. We're built for conversation. Nobody's going to change that. Even if you stick a wire in my head, you're still only going to hear one thing, my inner monologue. It's a voice. So if you want to stick a wire in your head to do that, fine. If you want to try to read my left hemisphere, which is a soup of ideas, go at it, because I can't even do that. Right? When you and everybody are in flow mode, it's nothing but a mass of ideas. Literally, I call them pyramids, because at the bottom of every pyramid is data, then there's information, then there's knowledge, insight, and then wisdom. And what the brain produces is wisdom. We take those ideas, which are desperate pieces, and we connect them together. And usually it's because we've observed nature, or we've observed somebody who's observed nature. because the human is in the fishbowl, and all we can do is replicate what we've seen around us. That's all invention is replicating what we've seen in nature. And some of it's very crude. That's why it's box-like, but ultimately that's the end game for every human being, is replicating what they've seen around. So when I see a founder that instinctively, they might not be able to put it in words like that. By the way, I generally don't say that very often because I'm hard to take to begin with. But when I start saying stuff like that, people's minds kind of go crazy, especially engineers. They get very angry. No, I'm inventing something nature does not produce. And I'm like, well, you're not looking hard enough, dude. You're not looking hard enough.
I love it.
So that's what it's about. That's what I look for in founders. That's what I invest in. And it could be a hot dog cart. It could be the latest voice tech. That's what I think everybody's looking for. And if you can create a university course to do that at Harvard or Yale, I'm all for it. I'll sit down and listen. But so far, it's numbers and spreadsheets, and it's go to market, and it's product market fit, and all of that is, let me give you a technical word, bullshit. If you're an inventor or creator and somebody's telling you about product market fit, they are not really a VC. They're somebody who's lost because they don't even know why their investments are paying off. And I hate saying that, but I say it this way because I have seen so many dreams broken by the bullshit that rolls out of Sand Hill Road that tells people that you need a product market fit. And that's bullshit. What you need is to be able to find a place in the world for your product. And if you find that place, the world will come to you. And that's not a product market fit because it's putting the cart before the horse. It's approaching the market backwards. And most people who analyze markets do it ex post facto. And so what do they see? They see everything backwards. They don't really see the inception points. And that's why I spend a lot of time on social media showing people what innovation has looked like throughout the arc of history. And people get shocked. Humans created this. Humans have done this. 75 years ago, we were able to talk to things. Oh yeah, we were able to do these things. Oh, but some VCs will say, well, there was no product market fit. There was no scale or go to market. I'm like, where did you find these freaking words, dude? They don't really even, they really don't have any reality for a creator or an inventor. That's ex post facto analysis to make you feel good about the investment that you made. That's all it is.
Yeah, I wanted to
that's
say
the best way I can say it.
Ted says, Brian, you're brilliant. I love the clarity you share. And then we had a Bond dad came on. He said he tuned in right as Brian said, stick some wires in my head. So we we love the mix. We do have a question from I think it's Ponya, Ponja on LinkedIn. She says, how far away are we from our devices understanding our emotions, in your opinion? Ian, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, I think we're really far away. I think it's not about the number of years. It probably has more to do with like there'll be a moment where there's a breakthrough, with understanding how to basically structure the machine learning to understand emotion. It's probably more likely a moment than a slow build, but I think we're pretty far away from it. I think Google is far away, Amazon's far away, everybody in the game is pretty far away from actually having it know your emotions. There's probably some shortcuts, like if you were to let your voice device have access to all your emails, all your videos, all your text messages, and there's a way for it to comb through and understand how you communicate, that'd be a shortcut, but we're pretty far away. I also want to mention one quick thing. Obviously Collin being an investor and Brian being an advisor to investors, two different worlds. And me, I'm a different world when it comes to investing, right? Like I'll be looking for the most brilliant entrepreneurs in the world. And if we're successful with ATTN.LIVE, we'll be inviting these entrepreneurs and their companies to be a part of what we're doing, right? So Collin's looking to deploy capital into voice companies. Brian's looking to advise, counsel, maybe deploy capital, probably more counsel other investors. And I'm looking to,
I'll deploy capital.
Yeah, of course, Brian, of course, investing, but it's a little bit different in terms of like.
Yeah, I hear you.
You're that's not the thing, right? Like I am the CEO of ATTN.LIVE and I'm building a product, but I'm also going to be looking at mergers and acquisitions and rolling up the voice industry and different ledger stuff, right? Because there's an opportunity for us. So we all have a different perspective on that. But anyway, back to the gal's question. I'm not sure, Collin, if you had any input on how far away do you think voice devices are?
Yeah.
And emotion.
I don't know if it's, I'm in the similar camp as you, and I don't know if it really I don't think it's a good use of time necessarily to focus around that. I think that there's so much, and going back to Brian's point with forget like the cold winter and everything, but it's better, I think, to focus attention on what this tech can do today, and then try and think of like, okay, how can I use this to build some sort of new product? And to go along also with what Brian said, and I think it's really important that like his talk around product market fit and everything. And I think ultimately what he's getting at, and Brian, you can correct me if you're wrong, but it's good to be solving, I guess, real problems, because if you're solving those things where you're creating a product that's a must-have versus just like a nice-to-have, especially in this environment, the product is going to be pulled by your customers, meaning the customers, if you're solving a real problem for them, they're going to tell you very straightforward what they want in the product and ultimately pull you to that future. At least that's my opinion. So to just say that there's this large market somewhere and just go try and get it, I think that's a fool's errand. Ultimately, you need to be solving real problems, and the market will tell you where to go.
Right.
Collin, absolutely. And that's really my point is, I like to talk more to people who build and invent, mostly because they're the ones that are usually left out in the cold. And, that's my world. I mean, 90% of what I do is either speak to those people or build stuff myself. And I got to get into I call it emotional intent extraction because I'm a nerd. And I'll dive into that in a second, because there is some technology we have already. But when you are creating something, you have to follow the path it's leading you on as an inventor. And Ian, I know this in you. You could not stop yourself as an inventor. And along the way, if you had the wrong thing said to you, you could stop your invention process and say, the world's not ready for Attention Live. And that's bullshit. The world is ready for it. The thing is, we have aligned our world into the startup sort of folklore culture that I believe post-pandemic 2020 has created a reset to that. Right. You have to be in dog patch, exposed wood and exposed recycled brick, sitting on a long table, pumping out in a hoodie to get VC funding. Thank God that's dead. Thank God that's dead. Because first off, not everybody looks like that. Second off, not everybody can live there. Third off, it's probably deleting 99% of the creativity in the world. And I love to see that over. I have nothing against the Bay Area, nothing against exposed brick and recycled wood and all that. But it became such a joke to me for the last 10 years to see this atypical dog patch startup just so that they can raise capital. And I'm hoping that we've matured as a species to move past that and find people around the world. Some of the most creative people I've found right now are in Africa. Incredible development in voice. There's things that they're doing that is not even on a radar screen. And I've been spending hours speaking with these groups, 16, 18 years old, taking Raspberry Pis and voice chips and new wake words and just creating new technology. Guess what? In an old world setting, and that is just a couple of years ago, those people would have had to fly into Southern California and maybe Northern California, maybe Texas. But probably if they really wanted to get funding, Northern California, spend, I don't know, $6,000, $7,000 a month to try to figure out how to live in the area and pray that somebody throws them some scraps. And those days are over. Now, emotional intent extraction. I'm a student of Paul Ekman. Paul Ekman is probably the most brilliant psychologist, and some people consider him a lie detector technology. It really isn't. It's about the 43 muscles on your face, which expose micro movements of human emotion. And once you understand the technology behind this, it is a superpower. and it's already machine learned. In fact, Apple acquired the technology from Emotiant, which is part of used in Face ID, but it's also used in Animoji. So the Animoji in an Apple chat, which most people aren't using anymore, but it was a great idea. What it does is it's not really reading your face. What it is it's looking at 43 muscles and replicating your emotional intents artificially within that Animoji. And so where was Emotiant before Apple acquired them? Well, unfortunately, they were experimenting with, let's call them showroom dummies, Nordstrom's and Bloomingdale's, some old school names now, post-pandemic. I hope not. Bloomingdale's is already, right? Yeah. Nordstrom's. They put stereoscopic eyes in the dummies, and they watched people's expression as they walked past the clothing, and they read their emotional states. Liked it, hated it, all the different crinkles, you start reading the effector muscles. So what I did is I took that technology and I built it into what I call the intelligence amplifier. And what it essentially does is it takes cheap cameras, and it's not to record anybody. It's not to make serendipitous videos. It's to try to read emotional states. And so I can, just from facial expression, read emotional states. Now, if I had telemetry on a person, let's just say I'm wearing a device, I call this human telemetry, I can read about 77, 78 telemetry points on a human body, which will tell me emotional states. I'll give you one easy one, iris, all right? Just look at somebody with a really big iris and observe them walking first, but if they're not walking funny, just look at their big iris. What is it telling you? And I think a lot of people who wear makeup understand what this is about. The whole idea of eye makeup is to try to make the iris look as big as possible. It's not the eyes, because if you have a really small pupil, the reaction a human being has to the face of a small pupil versus a larger pupil changes dramatically. So I can read an emotional state. Now, does that read a person's mind? No, it does not. Neither does Paul Ekman's facial reading, right? If I can read your 43 muscles, I can give you the superpower. I can probably teach it in 2 days for most people, right? I can give you the superpower, but it doesn't give you much. It actually is sometimes a curse, because you can tell when somebody is giving you a deception instantly. You don't even need to have known the person. It is universal, every single culture, but you don't know what the deception is about. The deception could be the self-lie. So if we teach a computer to read deception, which we have, right? We don't know what the deception is. So then you have to do a lot more with it. You can look at incongruencies. You can look at a lot of different things. So now, what does facial reading have to do with emotion? Well, the face is you get to see my face today, I'm sorry. But you generally, like Ian was saying, you generally will look at somebody's face for this sort of feedback. When you're typing text, that's the most one-dimensional you can get out of a human being. And there's no way to read irony. That's why there's a lot of fights on the internet. Yep. You cannot create irony. Emojis actually confuse the signal. It creates more noise than signal, right? Somebody uses an emoji the wrong way, you can get pissed off. You can say, oh, you're mocking me. Like the head exploding emoji. Sometimes people use that and say, oh, you're mocking me. It's like, that's why I don't use emojis very often, because they're not accurate. You see an emoji. In fact, if you ever want to play a game with people, lay up some emojis and tell them what it makes them feel like. It's a Rorschach test, right? And your mind will be literally blown. Emoji right there. Now, your mind will literally be blown, because you might have a best friend or a significant other and say, hey, no harm here. What does that emoji represent to you? Give me words. Give me 3 words, 4 words, 5 words. Do it with kids. Children are especially important. Teenagers, they're communicating textually, and they're trying to get ideas and emotions across, because we're emotional creatures. And we're using this crude, old school caveman tool of emoji to express what I'm trying to do in my voice. So like Ian was saying earlier, It's our voice is our power. Then our face is our confirmation. And that's why we're voice first. And that's why this technology, when we finally do read emotion, we can transfer that digitally. And someday your Animoji will literally display what you're feeling in real time if you don't want your face out there. Make sense?
It. Yeah, it's very exciting. And I want to thank both of you for being on. We have a couple people to bring on to finish up the hour.
Before Brian leaves, Brian,
yeah,
I wore this shirt for you.
He can't see it. Can you see it?
Oh. Bitcoin.
I love it. Brian and Collin, we appreciate your insight so much.
Thank you, guys.
Both
Thanks
of
for
you
having me.
guys are very active on Twitter, so definitely check them out. So thank you. We'll see you both again soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
All right, so just to finish up, we have a couple other great people to bring on. So we're going to bring them on here. I have Dr. Teri Fisher. He is a physician. He is the founder of Alexa in Canada, the Voice Den. He also plays the drums. I mean, what can Dr. Teri not do? Can we just talk about that? We also have Bianca Phillips. She is the founder of Voice Tech Lab. And then we have Audrey Arbeeny. She is the founder and CEO of Audio Brain. Noelle was supposed to join us, but it looks like she may not be able to do that today. So I want to welcome all of you. For those of you that are watching, if you have not interacted with anyone in this space that you're seeing today, please reach out to them. They're very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. The voice community is such a nice group of people, and everybody's trying to learn from one another. So Dr. Teri has an exciting event coming up. Ian and Teri, do you want to talk about it? And then we'll have the ladies talk about how they're going to be a part of it as well.
Sure. Teri, why don't you tell them about the Voice Den?
Thanks. Well, before I talk about that, I just want to thank you, Carrie, and Pete, and everybody involved with the Voice team, the Voice Summit, Voice Global team. You guys are putting on incredible events, and I encourage anybody who has not already got on their mailing list, signed up to get all the information, to definitely do that, because they are real masters when it comes to bringing the community together. So that's the first thing. Secondly, so thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. We've heard the word monologue a couple of times already today in this broadcast, and the Voice Den really came from an idea of trying to bring the community together, not so much for monologue type of interactions in an online setting, but to really have a dialogue. And one of the things that I really love about being able, when we were able to go to live events, was being able to hang out with people, hang out with friends, hang out with mentors, just chat about what's going on in the space, learn from each other, advise each other, mentor each other. And I started to think about how we could bring that to an online space. And that's really what the Voice Den is all about. It's an opportunity for people to come together as a community, chat. We have invited guests, we're known as the voice influencers, and these are some of the biggest personalities in the voice space. And it's an opportunity for attendees to come sit in the hot seat, so to speak, and have a chance to get some of their questions answered. Have a chat, just like as if you were going out for a couple of drinks after you had sat through some sessions at a fantastic conference. So I don't want to say too much more. What I really want to do is talk about some of the people that are on this first show happening tomorrow. And so we've got Pete Erickson, who kicked off this episode. Pete is one of our voice influencers, so it's fantastic to have Pete on there. You'll have a chance to chat with him. We have Dave Isbitsky from Amazon, Chief Evangelist. Of course, Dave is a wealth of knowledge. Brett Kinsella, the brains behind VoiceBot.ai, and these two wonderful women on with us right now, Audrey Arbeeny and Bianca Phillips. Audrey is the audio brain, literally, and Bianca is the Jedi Knight of Law. She is a lawyer specializing in voice. So I just wanted to give an opportunity for each of you to say a few words, talk about, why you're part of this, and some of the things that maybe people can ask you about and learn from you. So Audrey, do you want to go ahead first?
Sure. Thank you for having me on. We're going to have a blast tomorrow night. We've been talking about this for a long time. And the idea here is to almost have like a party that we had, a few months ago, just to kind of replicate it in the environment we're in now. I'm coming on because I've been doing sonic branding for 25 years. So I've been doing sound first as well as voice first for quite a long time. And I know that a lot of people think this is all brand new, as far as before it was just a sound logo and a jingle and what have you, and maybe a spokesperson. And now we have all of this other stuff we need to do. but it's really been around for a very, very long time. So I want to come on and use that experience to show through illustration, whether it be the Xbox or things we've done on Olympics or anything else, as to what real sonic branding is and why voice right now is so critical as part of that equation, and kind of get the record straight, because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So you can ask me anything, because I'm ready. I really am ready for this one.
Amazing. And Bianca, I'd love to hear from you as well, and share with the audience.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here, Kerry, Ian, Teri, Audrey. Really looking forward to the Voice Den. It's going to be a great event, and I'm really going to be talking about the way that the law is going to potentially manage the disruption of voice technologies. And part of that is my role with the Open Voice Network. So I'll be talking about how the Open Voice Network is really bridging the communication between the makers of technology and the makers of the rules and laws that will govern society as we move forward with these interesting, fascinating technologies. And yeah, you can ask me any questions that you have. My focus these days is more so on the policy and regulatory side. So, you know, it's up to you what you'd like to ask me, and we can have a really fun time and really great chat about the future of voice and law and society.
Amazing.
Yeah, so Teri, where can people learn more about that or sign up? When is it?
Thanks, Kerry. It's tomorrow night, Wednesday evening, which is at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can get all the information. You can learn more about the voice fluencers. We've got little, almost like trading cards on the site. You can see them all at thevoiceden.com. It's going to be a reality show party type vibe.
I love it. And Ian, where can people learn more about you and Attention Live? We've had people been asking, how do I get to be a part of this platform? Where can they talk to you more about it?
So I'm everywhere on social at Ian Utile, at Attention Live is the company. I'm not that easy to get a hold of. I don't respond a lot of times. So if you're out there and you've reached out and haven't responded, it's on me, not you. Okay. Easiest way to get a hold of me is actually to text my cell phone, 831-566-9692. Doesn't mean I'll respond. You have to text me in a compelling way that would get me to respond and communicate with you. But that is definitely the easiest way.
Perfect. And again, if you want to find out anything about the events that Voice is doing, voicesummit.ai for all the events coming up. I thank you, Ian, for being here, and for all of you that came on today. This was a ton of fun. Again, if you're watching, you haven't connected with these people, please do. They all are really passionate and knowledgeable about various topics within voice, and just really good people. So thank you, everyone, for being here.
It was wonderful.
Thank you